Welcome to Verdict Vantage, covering breaking news stories. Thank you for supporting our research. We would like to extend a trigger warning before we continue. Please be advised.
This video contains discussions about true crime, which may include topics such as violence, assault, and other distressing incidents. Viewer discretion is advised.
If you are interested in our future coverage of this story, be sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell before you go. Verdict Vantage thanks you for supporting our continued news coverage and research.
What I gotta fix? If I'm not broken,
Oh, come on.
Trade in any phone in any condition guaranteed at Verizon and get 800.
Living with opioid addiction can be a struggle, trapped in a cycle of opioid use, withdrawal, and craving.
Ding dong, the psycho's gone.
His comedic timing, always impeccable.
Way to save your dignity, my man.
His sarcasm, legendary.
I went to that tanning place your wife suggested.
Was that place The Sun?
But over the course of 10 seasons and 236 episodes, Matthew Perry, who at one point famously made $1 million an episode for Friends, was in a constant struggle with addiction.
He was hospitalized with complications from his addiction, and doctors actually gave him a 2% chance of living.
In an interview with People magazine, Perry talks about his upcoming memoir, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. It's a no-holds-barred look at his 3-decade struggle with drugs and alcohol.
He's not sugarcoating this. He's being brutally honest.
Perry was just 24 when he nabbed the role of Chandler Bing and says his addiction issues escalated with his sudden fame, writing, "If you gauge my weight from season to season, when I'm carrying weight, it's alcohol. When I am skinny, it's pills. When I have a goatee, it's lots of pills." His weight seesawing from 225 pounds to 128 pounds. The difference especially noticeable from the end of season 6.
Will you marry me?
Yes. To the beginning of season 7.
Monica and I are engaged.
At one point, Perry writes he was up to 55 pain pills a day. In a Friends reunion special last year, Perry says the self-inflicted pressure to get a laugh was crippling.
To me, I felt like I was going to die if they didn't laugh. If I didn't get the laugh I was supposed to get, I would freak out. It would take you down. Yeah.
He credits the show and his Friends family with helping him make it through. They were understanding and they were patient, and it could be said that doing the show saved me. Now, at age 53, after 15 stints in rehab and 14 addiction-related surgeries, Perry tells people he is healthy and that he hopes his memoir will help others in a similar situation. People are suffering out there, and maybe if they hear a story from somebody they've seen on TV that's worse or the same as theirs, they'll be filled with hope.
Perry says he could only write this book now because he finally feels he's safe from going to the dark side again. He also says he's in a good place to look for love. God bless him for sharing his story. We've talked about it all the time on the show. When someone shares their story, pain, health issues, you can save a life.
And you don't know what anyone's going through. Like, we watched that show. We were like, he seems funny and fine. You have no idea the demons people are carrying. Wow.
It takes a lot of courage to tell that story.
And thank him for sharing.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your favorite recipes, celebrity interviews, uplifting stories.
I left the message. I have some pride.
Do you?
No.
This morning, fans paying tribute to Matthew Perry, best known for his beloved role as Chandler Bing on the 90s hit sitcom Friends.
Could I be more sorry?
The 54-year-old found dead at his LA home on Saturday. Authorities say he appeared to have drowned.
You have to stop the Q-tip when there's resistance.
With a dry and self-deprecating wit, Perry helped transform Friends into a 90s cultural touchstone. The show running 10 seasons, Perry starring in all 234 episodes.
So how many cameras are actually on you?
Perry would go on to star in a string of hit films like The Whole Nine Yards and Fools Rush In.
Chewie, hi.
Luke Skywalker.
But off-screen, he struggled, battling years-long addictions to drugs and alcohol.
To me, I felt like I was going to die if they didn't laugh.
The actor said he went to rehab 15 times, detox 65 times. Perry detailing his decades-long battle in a 2022 memoir titled Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. In an interview with ABC's Diane Sawyer at the time, he said he found it hard to rewatch old episodes of his most famous show.
I feel sorry for that guy. Because that's a guy that's out of control.
This morning, tributes pouring in for the 90s TV icon who made us laugh, but struggled with his own demons. A statement posted to the official Friends Instagram account reading, "He was a true gift to us all. Our heart goes out to his family, loved ones, and all of his fans."
So, Chloe, we cannot overstate, as you say, how massive Friends was culturally during those 10 seasons and continues to be today, actually, with Matthew right at the center of that family.
You know, really, and you're so right about that. Look, I mean, there are tributes pouring in on social media, and it's really because Friends changed the way that we viewed the idea of family, that you could call friends your chosen family. You know, this show was the epitome of pop culture. It dealt with everything from relationships, heartbreaks, family problems, and even career changes, subjects that are still present and relevant in our lives. You know, really, millions tuned in for that show every single week, and that season finale in 2004, over 50 million viewers. People still watch Friends to this day. And Matthew Perry's Chandler Bing, in many people's opinions, I mean, he goes down as one of the most genius roles in comedic television. The funny guy who was always cracking jokes, but he was always there for his friends when they needed him. You cannot overstate the cultural significance of Friends, of Matthew Perry's character, Chandler Bing, and he will be deeply missed.
I mean, just that number you cited, 50 million people. We're never going to see those kind of Friends Seinfeld TV numbers again. Matthew Perry, again, dead at the age of 54. Chloe, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern.
This morning, as fans mourn the loss of one of their greatest friends, we're learning new details about the investigation into Matthew Perry's death. A source close to Perry telling NBC News that the 54-year-old actor was discovered by his assistant. Law enforcement says that he was found unresponsive in a jacuzzi at his Pacific Palisades home Saturday.
Respond to the drowning.
Sources say that there was no obvious signs of trauma or foul play. The cause of death still unknown, pending toxicology testing. In an eerie foreshadowing of his passing, Perry's last Instagram post, just 5 days before his death, was this photo of him in a swimming pool. His family telling People magazine, "We are heartbroken by the tragic loss of our beloved son and brother."
Pivot! Pivot! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
At just 24 years old, he landed the role of a lifetime for 10 seasons, charming fans as Chandler Bing on the hit NBC sitcom Friends. In a 2021 cast reunion special, Perry reflecting on the special bond with his co-stars.
After the show was over, if one of us bumped into each other, that was it. That was the end of the night. You just sat with the person all night long.
Former NBC Entertainment President Warren Littlefield says Perry was just as quick and witty off-screen.
His mind worked so fast. He was so adept, but also the heart that he had.
He opened up about his decades-long battle with drugs and alcohol in his 2022 memoir.
I didn't watch the show and haven't watched the show because I could go drinking, opiates, drinking, cocaine. Like I could tell season by season by how I looked.
Now, as fans grieve outside the famous Friends building used on the show, tributes are pouring in. Selma Blair, who called Perry her oldest boyfriend, posting, "I loved him unconditionally. I'm broken." Gwyneth Paltrow also remembering Perry for his humor and kindness and the magical summer they had during their brief romance in 1993. In an emotional video, Hank Azaria says the actor was like a brother to him, adding it was Perry who took him to his first AA meeting.
He was so caring and giving and wise, and he totally helped me get sober.
Perry himself hoping to be remembered most for helping others.
If somebody comes up to me and says, "I can't stop drinking, can you help me?" I can say yes and follow up and do it. When I die, I don't want friends to be the first thing that's mentioned. I want that to be the first thing that's mentioned.
We're also learning new details about what Matthew Perry was doing the day of his death. Perry's pickleball coach telling People magazine that Perry had played a match with someone just hours before he was found dead in his home nearby. And the coach also said that he was doing really well. We should mention that this sad news is hitting another member of our NBC News family particularly hard. Matthew's stepfather is Dateline correspondent Keith Morrison, who's been married to his mother for more than 40 years. Our hearts go out to Keith and their entire family.
Yeah, Keith has so much love for that young man. Chloe, thank you. Joining us now is Wendy Noggle. She's the editor-in-chief for People magazine. I think what Matthew just said at the end of that last interview was so poignant. I think a lot of people think of Matthew Perry and they think Friends is going to be his legacy. But really, he was someone who was guiding people into rehab as he himself had been struggling for years.
Yes, that was so important for him. You know, he told us in an interview just a year ago, if you have my number and you need it, call me. I will help you. And that was really key for him. He really wanted to help others. And that's why he was so open with his own experience.
He had been through so much, and he wrote the memoir. Really, he was very transparent about the horrors that he had been through, but it seemed like he was working through it. He had attained sobriety, and he seemed to be doing better in life.
Yes, he had said that, you know, it wasn't a daily struggle, but it was something he thought about daily. So it was very important to him, and I think that's why he was so key in helping others. But he had also been doing so well. He was playing pickleball daily. He was writing a little script. That's where the Mat Man reference comes from in his Instagram. And he had signed on to a new drama film. So he was doing very well.
And he had just moved into this house that he had renovated as well. What more do we know about Perry's final days?
Well, we do know that he was playing pickleball that morning, and it seemed that he was doing very well. So the autopsy is complete, and of course there will be toxicology reports to come. But I think what everyone wants to remember about him is just how he was the friend who always wrapped you in his arms, was willing to help you no matter what you needed to do. And the outpouring of support that we've seen just echoes all of that.
Well, and from the Friends cast too, that was such a poignant moment during that reunion where he said something like, when we're at a party and we see one another, we're going to leave everybody else at the party and I'm going to spend my time just with that person. That bond was real.
That was real. I mean, Kathleen Turner talked about just what a tight-knit group they were when she was on the show and when she came in. And I think one of the things that really sticks with me is he talked about when we interviewed them around the reunion, we said, well, do you have any advice for your 24-year-old self? And he said, do the 11th season. And of course, it ended after 10 seasons. And I think there was a wish for more time for those people to be together.
All right. Well, Wendy, thank you so much. We appreciate that insight. We're going.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11.
Matthew.
Used car shopping?
2 rows, 2 dogs. I'm sold.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
The cast of Friends coming together again to grieve the sudden loss of their beloved Matthew Perry and issue a joint statement. We were more than just castmates. We are a family. Jennifer Aniston, Courtney Cox, Lisa Kudrow, Matt LeBlanc, and David Schwimmer writing, there is so much to say, but right now we're going to take a moment to grieve and process this unfathomable loss. The 54-year-old actor was found unresponsive in a hot tub Saturday afternoon at his Pacific Palisades home. Sources familiar telling NBC News that Perry's assistant had left to run an errand and returned to find Perry unresponsive and called 911. The Los Angeles Fire Department said that firefighters removed Perry from the hot tub, but that he was already dead when they arrived.
I'm not great at the advice. Can I interest you in a sarcastic comment?
While he will always be remembered for his signature role as Chandler Bing on Friends,
someone at work ate my sandwich.
Well, what did the police say?
Perry also starred in movies like The Whole Nine Yards, 17 Again, and Fools Rush In, which he once called his best film work. His co-star Salma Hayek posting, I will continue to cherish your silliness, your perseverance, and your lovely heart. Behind that trademark wit and charming smile, there was darkness. In his 2022 memoir, Perry opened up about his decades-long battle with drugs and alcohol. But more recently, the sport of pickleball had become an outlet during his recovery journey, according to his friend and former coach.
And he brought
people to the court that had struggles, similar struggles to his own.
Just hours before his death, the star had been playing with mutual friends at a nearby country club. Broken-hearted fans have been laying flowers outside his LA home. And last night, pop singer Charlie Puth leading his audience in an emotional version of the Friends theme song.
I'll be there for you when the rain starts to fall. I'll be there for you.
Although there have been no reports indicating foul play, the cause of death is being investigated by the LAPD and the LA County Medical Examiner's Office. And officials say that they now want to await those toxicology results, which could take about 3 to 4 months. So it's going to be a little bit of time before we know exactly what has happened.
Yeah. All right, Chloe. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chloe.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific on our streaming channel, Today All Day.
The cast of Friends coming together again to grieve the sudden loss of their beloved.
I may just sit here and have my cake all day. Just sit here in the hallway and eat my...
As fans celebrate the moments that made us laugh, over the weekend, an intimate and emotional farewell for Matthew Perry. Loved ones attended a private funeral Friday for the actor in Los Angeles, including all 5 of Perry's Friends co-stars, according to People magazine. The service took place at Forest Lawn Memorial Park, located less than a mile from Warner Brothers Studios, where Perry filmed the iconic sitcom and played the charmingly cheeky Chandler Bing.
Please, could she be more out of my league? Ross, back me up here.
He could never get a woman like that in a million years.
Thank you, buddy.
The show's 10 seasons are still in syndication and were reportedly bringing in significant residuals for Perry every year. Those payments will continue even after his death and will go to Perry's estate. Now, as fans pay tribute to his life and legacy, the actor's advocacy is in the spotlight.
If somebody comes up to me and says, I can't stop drinking, can you help me? I can say yes and follow up and do it. When I die, I don't want Friends to be the first thing that's mentioned. I want that to be the first thing that's mentioned.
Perry's family hoping to make good on that wish by establishing the Matthew Perry Foundation to help others struggling with the disease of addiction. Adding the effort will be guided by Perry's own words and experiences and driven by his passion for making a difference in as many lives as possible.
And as far as the ongoing investigation into a cause of death, the LA County Medical Examiner is waiting to release the autopsy until the toxicology results are completed. Then the full report will be finalized and released. Guys.
All right, Liz, thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8.
Babe, I'm buying this kitchen island.
New pillows?
Blender.
Rug?
This morning, Jennifer Aniston sharing personal new insights into Matthew Perry's final days.
I love you.
Not so tight.
In a new interview with Variety, Aniston, who starred alongside Perry on the hit 90s sitcom Friends, says she had been in touch with Perry just hours before his death in October. I was literally texting with him that morning, funny Maddie. He was not in pain. He wasn't struggling. He was happy. Perry was found unresponsive in a hot tub at his Los Angeles home by his assistant. The actor's initial autopsy results inconclusive, pending a toxicology report, according to the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner. The actor had been open about his decades-long battle with drug and alcohol addiction. But Aniston believes Perry was turning things around, telling the magazine he had quit smoking, he was getting in shape, he was happy, that's all I know. The actress adding, I want people to know he was really healthy and getting healthy. He was on a pursuit. He worked so hard. He really was dealt a tough one.
I may just sit here and have my cake all day. Just sit here in the hallway and eat my...
Aniston says it was Perry's comedic genius which helped make Friends Friends one of the most successful shows on television during its 10-year run on NBC. His way of speaking created a whole different world. We went with his lead in a way. It just added something to our joy. In the nearly 7 weeks since Perry's death, his friends and fellow co-stars continued to pay tribute. On Monday, Zac Efron honoring his 17 Again co-star during his Hollywood Walk of Fame ceremony.
It really pushed me into the next chapter of my career, and for that, thank you so much, Matthew.
But some of the most heartfelt tributes coming from his Friends co-stars, who attended a private burial for the actor last month. Aniston calling the outpouring of love beautiful. I hope he can know that he was loved in a way he never thought he was.
Aniston also said that she hopes everyone will remember Perry as he'd love to be remembered. Something Perry referenced himself when promoting his memoir last year, saying, "When I die, I want helping others to be the first thing that's mentioned." And you know, his family and loved ones, they started the Matthew Perry Foundation. And on the website, I was looking last night, it has that quote right there. And his loved ones and his family, they're making sure that he is remembered the way that he wanted to be remembered.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Chloe. Thank you so much.
Chloe, thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show. Some new details and new questions on the death of beloved Friends star Matthew Perry.
Yeah, the actor's autopsy report says he died from the acute effects of the drug ketamine. His death was ruled an accident. NBC's senior national correspondent Kate Snow joins us with more. Hi, Kate. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Savannah. Well, since the news broke on Friday, there have been a lot of questions about ketamine. It's an anesthetic and a hallucinogen. We've talked about it here on Today before. It is sometimes used recreationally. It can be found illegally. But recently, it's also been studied for its potential to treat mental health disorders, including depression. And now it's being blamed for the death of Matthew Perry, who talked openly about his own struggle with substance use.
This morning, new questions surrounding Matthew Perry's death as the world remembers the beloved star.
I'm gonna hug you. You hug me. All right.
In an autopsy report released Friday, the medical examiner determined the 54-year-old died from the acute effects of ketamine, ruling his death an accident. Ketamine is a fast-acting hallucinogen approved by the FDA as an anesthetic. It gained popularity as a party drug because it boosts feel-good chemicals in the brain and causes a euphoric effect. But recently, ketamine has increasingly been offered off-label at clinics to treat depression and other mental health disorders, and has even been studied to treat alcohol and drug abuse. Perry was known for his lighthearted on-screen persona.
I'm not great at the advice. Can I interest you in a sarcastic comment?
But had a long history with addiction.
It's so cunning, baffling, and powerful, alcoholism and addiction. It's a disease that we have, and we don't know that we have it.
In his memoir released last year, the actor wrote about being given ketamine during rehab. Taking ketamine is like being hit in the head with a giant happy shovel, but the hangover was rough and outweighed the shovel. Ketamine was not for me, he wrote. It's unclear how Perry obtained the ketamine that led to his death. But according to officials, Perry was reported to be receiving ketamine infusion therapy for depression and anxiety, and his last treatment was a week and a half before his death. The examination found the amount of ketamine in his blood was equivalent to the amount used for general anesthesia, levels, the report says, too high to be residual from his last clinical treatment. Perry was found floating face down in his hot tub in October. One of the contributing factors, authorities also noted, a drug buprenorphine, approved by the FDA to treat opioid use disorder, which people often stay on for years.
I just want to say that I love you.
Recently, Friends co-star and close friend Jennifer Aniston told Variety that Perry was getting healthy, adding he wasn't struggling, he was happy.
A witness who talked to investigators said Perry had been sober for 19 months. The autopsy found no evidence of illicit drugs like cocaine, meth, heroin, or fentanyl in his system. For now, it's unclear, guys, if investigators will look into how Perry obtained ketamine, but this news certainly very difficult for his family and his millions of fans.
Yeah. All right, Kate, thank you. We want to turn now to NBC senior medical correspondent, Dr. John Torres. Dr. Torres, good morning. I have to tell you, I'm just scratching my head because I don't quite understand how ketamine might be used in this scenario. He had some a week and a half prior to his death in some clinical setting, and then yet somehow we find it in his system? I mean, what is a likely scenario here?
And it can be very, very confusing. And we're talking about two different things. There's ketamine and there's S-ketamine. And those are two different FDA-approved medications. They're similar, but they're a little chemically different. Ketamine is the one that's been used since the 1960s. It was an animal anesthetic. It's an dissociative anesthetic, which means that in the emergency room or the operating room, we can do painful procedures, and you won't mind us doing that because you're dissociated from your body. But it has been used in off-label indications, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. S-ketamine is the one that was recently FDA approved for depression that was treatment resistant, especially if they have suicidal ideation associated with that. And that is the one that's in nasal spray, and it's under medical supervision. So both of these are medically indicated. You know, why he was using it, I don't know if we'll ever know.
Yeah, is it easy to overdose? Can you take too much and it can be fatal?
So differences here between overdose and having issues because of the overdose. It's rare to die from ketamine overdose, and it's rare to have long-lasting conditions. It can have short-acting issues if you do overdose. It's easy to take too much, more than you're supposed to. And if you do, you're going to have racing heartbeat, you're going to have your blood pressure going up, you're going to have this dissociation from your body that people describe as uncomfortable. He described it as a happy shovel, where it just does not feel very good. If you take too much anesthetic type levels, you can get to the point where your respiration's depressed, you're somnolent, you can't respond to issues, and unfortunately, if you go underwater, you might not be able to respond to that.
The demand for ketamine apparently has become, it's quite popular. I read that since 2017, prescriptions are up 500%. What's behind it? What's behind the boom in ketamine?
So I think a couple of things. One is the success we're seeing with certain things. Like we talked about that treatment-resistant depression, S-ketamine having success with that, and people looking at ketamine and saying, well, maybe that'll work as well. And the others, we're seeing some indications of it working for possibly for addiction, possibly for PTSD, these other conditions being used off-label for those conditions. Still no FDA approval for it, or still the studies are still pending, but I think it's becoming more and more popular.
I guess the question is, I think what people are trying to figure out is, was he using something legitimately to try to deal with his addiction that is used for that purpose? Or is this an example of him possibly falling off the wagon and abusing a drug, unfortunately, and it led to his death?
And it certainly could be down the middle of doing both. We know a week and a half before he died, he was in a clinic getting medically supervised the ketamine infusions to help with his depression. But, looking forward, was he trying to do something with his addiction, off-label use? Was he doing it on his own? We don't know.
And they said he didn't have any other drugs in his system other than that.
And the buprenorphine, he was taking that for opioids, and that's one of the issues with ketamine. If you use it in conjunction with another medication, like...
Let's get real. Your butt's not perfect, but at Orgain, we love them all. We love...
This morning, a new twist in the investigation into the death of Friends star Matthew Perry. The LAPD telling NBC News it's working with the Drug Enforcement Administration and the U.S. Postal Inspection Service to investigate the circumstances of Perry's death. Perry was found unresponsive in a hot tub at his Pacific Palisades home in October. The LA County Medical Examiner's Office says Perry died from the acute effects of ketamine, a powerful anesthetic approved by the FDA to treat depression under doctor supervision. But the drug can also be used recreationally. The autopsy report states Perry was on ketamine infusion therapy for depression and anxiety. He wrote about it in his 2022 memoir.
Ketamine felt like a giant exhale. They'd bring me into a room, sit me down, put headphones on me so I could listen to music, blindfold me, and put an IV in.
But the autopsy report says the ketamine in his system could not have been from his last therapy session, which was a week and a half before he died. And the level of ketamine found in his blood was equivalent to the amount used for general anesthesia. Now, two sources close to Perry who say they've been interviewed by law enforcement as part of the investigation tell NBC News authorities are trying to determine how Perry came into possession of so much ketamine and want to track down any drug dealers and ketamine clinics that he used.
Chandler is my name, and hi.
Despite the joy he brought playing Chandler Bing on the hit series Friends, Perry's struggles with addiction were no secret. The actor revealing at one point he was taking nearly 6 prescription pills a day.
It has nothing to do with weakness. It's a disease that we have.
His stepfather, Dateline's Keith Morrison, opening up about Perry's death with Hoda in March.
Did it surprise you?
It was the news you never want to get, but you think someday you might.
Now law enforcement looking for anyone who may have played a role in Perry's recent drug abuse that ended so tragically.
So, Chloe, what sparked this investigation and why are they doing it now?
So when you read the autopsy report from December, it says that Matthew Perry had actually reduced the amount of ketamine infusions that he was undergoing as part of his depression and anxiety treatment. That the last infusion he had received before his death was about a week and a half before. But let's juxtapose that with the levels of ketamine found in his system at the time of the autopsy, were that used when doing like general anesthesia for surgery. So how did he have that amount of ketamine in his system? Because ketamine, when you do take it, it metabolizes pretty quickly. So within about 24 hours, there's very little traces of ketamine left in your system. So the DEA and authorities, they are trying to find out the source of how did he get that amount of ketamine in his possession and who was overseeing his medical care at the time.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8.
This morning, new details on potential charges in the death of actor Matthew Perry. A law enforcement source familiar with the investigation into how he obtained the ketamine that contributed to his death, telling NBC News several people who supplied Perry with the drug could face federal charges. Perry was found unresponsive in a hot tub at his Pacific Palisades home last October. The LA County Medical Examiner's Office says he died from the acute effects of ketamine, a powerful anesthetic approved by the FDA to treat depression under doctor supervision, but one that can also be used recreationally. The autopsy report states Perry was on ketamine infusion therapy for depression and anxiety, something the actor described in his 2022 memoir.
Ketamine felt like a giant exhale.
But the autopsy report says the ketamine in his system could not have been from his last therapy session, which was a week and a half before he died, saying the level found in his blood was equivalent to the amount used for general anesthesia. Perry had always been open about his long struggle with addiction.
It wants you sick, and then it wants to kill you.
Perry rose to TV superstardom on the hit 90s sitcom Friends as Chandler Bing. In recent weeks, his co-stars opening up about the loss of their dear friend.
Oh God, don't make me cry.
Jennifer Aniston moved to tears when asked what it's like to watch the show now.
No, I'm okay. Okay. It's a happy tears.
Courtney Cox, who played Perry's on-screen wife, says she still feels his spirit.
He visits me a lot, if we believe in that. I talk to my mom, my dad, Matthew. I feel like there are a lot of people that that guide us.
While Lisa Kudrow says she's now rewatching the iconic show to help keep Perry's memory alive, telling The Hollywood Reporter, it's just celebrating how hilarious he was, and that is what I want to remember.
Kelly, still so many questions here. So where does the investigation go now?
Yeah, well, a law enforcement source tells us there will be no immediate action taken in the case. So we've spoken to two sources close to Perry who say they were interviewed by law enforcement as part of the investigation and were asked specifically if they knew about any drug dealers or ketamine clinics that Perry used. Guys.
All right, Kaylee Hartung. Kaylee, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every week.
What I gotta fix. If I'm not broken,
Oh, come
what I
on.
gotta fix.
Trade in any phone in any condition guaranteed at Verizon and get $800 off the new Galaxy Z Fold 6. Only on Verizon.
Meanwhile, we've got some more breaking news that we're following that is unfolding as we speak. NBC News has learned that law enforcement officials have made an arrest this morning tied to the death of Friends star Matthew Perry. NBC's Chloe Melas is with us now live from Los Angeles with the very latest on this breaking news. Chloe, good morning to you. What more can you tell us?
Craig, good morning. This is obviously an incredibly significant development in this investigation. Law enforcement sources telling NBC News that at least one person has been arrested in connection to the investigation into the death of Matthew Perry. That arrest was made in Southern California this morning, and the investigation into Perry's death, it has been ongoing since last year. Now, it's unclear who else could potentially be arrested and what those charges will look like, but we do know it's not uncommon for law enforcement to investigate the people who supplied the drugs that caused such a high-profile death. NBC News had previously reported that investigators were getting close to uncovering how Matthew Perry got a hold of such large amounts of ketamine before he died in October of 2023. The operation, part of a joint investigation with the LAPD, DEA, and U.S. Postal Inspection Service, is still unfolding. Perry was found unresponsive in a hot tub at his Pacific Palisades home last October. According to the LA County Medical Examiner, the 54-year-old died from the acute effects of ketamine, a powerful anesthetic approved by the FDA under doctor supervision. Other contributing factors included drowning and coronary artery disease, as well as the effects of buprenorphine, a medication used to treat opioid use disorder. The autopsy report states Perry was on ketamine infusion therapy for depression and anxiety. A year before his death, the actor addressed his struggles with addiction and his relationship with ketamine in his memoir Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing.
Ketamine felt like a giant exhale. They'd bring me into a room, sit me down, put headphones on me so I could listen to music, blindfold me, and put an IV in.
But the autopsy report says that the ketamine in his system could not have been from his last therapy session, which was just a week and a half before he died, saying that the level found in his blood was equivalent to the amount used for general anesthesia.
Now, in just a few hours, federal authorities will be holding a news conference, and we'll be learning more about this case and the investigation that led to this morning's arrest. And Craig, obviously, this is incredibly significant. And like I said, NBC News, we had previously reported that law enforcement officials were getting closer to figuring out who supplied, if it was one or many people, that supplied those large amounts of ketamine that ultimately resulted in Matthew Perry's death.
All right, Chloe Malas for us there in Los Angeles on this breaking news. And again, Chloe reporting that there will be a news conference a few hours from now. We should learn some more details as a result of that news conference. Of course, lots more information throughout the day on NBC News Now, our streaming network, and of course,
I'm gonna hug you.
Nearly 10 months after beloved Friends star Matthew Perry's fatal ketamine overdose, federal investigators have now charged 5 people in connection with the actor's death, including 2 California doctors, Mark Chavez and Salvador Plasencia. Yasmin Sangha, an alleged drug trafficker prosecutors say is known as the ketamine queen, and Perry's live-in assistant, Kenneth Iwamasa, who according to court documents admitted to investigators he repeatedly injected Perry with doses of the drug that led to the actor's death.
These defendants took advantage of Mr. Perry's addiction issues to enrich themselves.
While 3 of the defendants, including Perry's assistant, have already agreed to plea deals, on Thursday, Sonia and Plasencia both pled not guilty in their first appearance in federal court. Dr. Plasencia's attorney telling NBC News Perry did pay his client for ketamine treatments.
The full extent of how much was charged and how much was prescribed in the treatment process, I don't have all of those answers right now, but there definitely was a doctor-patient relationship.
In an 18-count indictment, investigators outlined Perry's tragic final weeks, alleging doctors and dealers sold the actor dozens of vials of ketamine for upwards of $60,000. According to the document, Dr. Plasencia sent text messages discussing how much to charge Perry for the drug, writing, "I wonder how much this moron will pay, and let's find out."
Dr. Plasencia and Dr. Chavez violated the oath they took to care for their patients. Instead of do no harm, they did harm so that they could make more money.
Court documents also indicate Perry's assistant told investigators in the days leading up to his death, Iwamasa injected his boss with approximately 6 to 8 ketamine shots per day and found Perry unconscious on at least 2 occasions. On the day Perry died, Iwamasa says he gave 3 separate rounds of the drug to the actor, with Perry telling him, "Shoot me up with a big one." Hours later, Perry was found face down and unresponsive in his jacuzzi. The LA County Medical Examiner determined that the 54-year-old died from the acute effects of ketamine. Perry had been open about his use of the drug to treat depression and anxiety, but federal investigators say that the ring of individuals charged conspired to take advantage of Perry for profit.
We are sending a clear message. If you are in the business of selling dangerous drugs, we will hold you accountable for the deaths that you cause.
For the leading defendants in this case, Sangha and Dr. Placencia, federal prosecutors say that they could face decades in prison. Now, Perry's personal assistant, he could face up to 15 years. But of course, his plea deal may lead to a more favorable sentencing. Perry's family released a statement yesterday saying that while they are still heartbroken by Matthew's death, they do look forward to justice taking its course. Craig?
Chloe Melas for us there in Los Angeles. Chloe, thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern.
Joining us now is the administrator of the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, Ann Milgram. Ann, good morning to you. Thanks so much for your time this morning.
Good morning.
It's an investigation that clearly spanned months. What else did you find over the course of that complex investigation? What more can you tell us?
Well, what I think is really important to focus on is that we've now charged the 5 individuals that we believe are responsible for Matthew Perry's death, going from unscrupulous doctors to street dealers of ketamine, and just a tragic arc from doctors' offices to the street that we see all too often with people who have substance use disorder.
So we do know that at one point, Perry was being treated with ketamine for anxiety and depression. At some point, it crossed the line into substance abuse, into addiction even. Do we know when that happened?
What we know is that he started receiving treatment for anxiety and depression. And at some point, he needed or wanted a higher dosage that the doctors would not provide. So at that point, he sought out other doctors. And it's part of the tragedy of this case that doctors are in a position of authority and trust, and these 2 doctors violated that. They saw him as a payday, and they saw it as an opportunity for them to make a lot of money. And so it doesn't matter, and this is an important message in the United States, it doesn't matter if you're wearing a doctor's coat or you're a member of a cartel, or you're a drug dealer on the street. We're going to hold you accountable if you're selling drugs and hurting Americans.
Let's talk about that cartel for a moment, because the indictment does list a separate 2019 ketamine death that's tied to this woman named Jasveen Sangha, who's known as the ketamine queen. The DA mentioned that they found a drug emporium when they searched this place. We're talking dozens of vials of ketamine, a bunch of pills. Any idea how vast this network is? Any idea how she was allowed to go undetected for so long?
So what we know is that when we did the search warrant earlier this year, remember this Matthew Perry's death was last fall, and then we did a search warrant earlier this year, and she was still running a drug emporium. There were 79 vials of ketamine, more than 1,000 pills that are essentially methamphetamine. Yeah. So she was a significant drug trafficker. And again, we also have now been able to connect her sale of ketamine to an individual, Cody McGlory, who died in 2019. So she's a significant source of supply in Los Angeles. And again, Matthew Perry got to her after starting with the unscrupulous doctors and then turning to the street.
So presumably this is going to lead to more arrests.
So the investigation is ongoing. What I can tell you is we believe that we've charged the individuals who are together responsible for Matthew Perry's death.
Really quickly, Ann, before I let you go, justice for Matthew Perry's family, any modicum of that, of course, welcome. What would you say to all of the families out there who have lost loved ones to addiction and substance abuse, and the dealers are never prosecuted? They're never, typically not even found, much less convicted. What would you say to those families who are watching and listening?
So I would disagree a little bit that the dealers are never found or convicted.
Really?
Since 2018, we've run an initiative that 2 years ago we spread nationwide called Overdose Justice, where we work with local police departments and will help investigate any case where an individual has died, because we understand that so often it's not an accident, it is a homicide. And so to all the victims, we do this work to honor the lives that are lost, to seek justice for the families, and to stop others from dying.
So the resources here weren't just because Matthew Perry was rich and famous.
We have 500 cases since 2023 into investigations just like this. Any police department in America who wants our help can call us.
DA Administrator Ann Milgram. Ann, thank you. Thanks so much. Have a good weekend.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11.
Before his death, Matthew Perry said he wanted to be remembered for helping others overcome addiction, addressing ketamine use in his 2022 memoir, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing.
Ketamine felt like a giant exhale. They'd bring me into a room, sit me down, put headphones on me so I could listen to music, blindfold me, and put an IV in.
Ketamine is an FDA-approved anesthetic. Its psychedelic properties make it a party drug known as Special K, but it's increasingly being prescribed by doctors for treatment-resistant depression.
Part of the reason you're seeing that explosion right now is because there's such a need to treat these mental health conditions, and people just aren't getting the relief that they need.
So should ketamine be demonized?
It's a good question. I think my take home for patients really is that if you are using ketamine, you want to make sure that you're using it in a strictly supervised medical professional setting.
Hundreds of ketamine clinics operate in person and online in the U.S. The legal market size expected to nearly double by 2030.
I don't think the bubble's going to burst. I think the bubble might change a little bit, and people might really be asking themselves, how am I getting this medication?
Investigators revealing how criminals are taking advantage of those seeking relief, like Perry.
That investigation has revealed a broad, underground criminal network.
This week, federal investigators arrested 5 people in connection with Perry's death. 2 doctors, a live-in personal assistant, an acquaintance, and a drug dealer known as the Ketamine Queen, who provided Perry with the drug after doctors limited his treatment.
They saw him as a payday. It doesn't matter if you're wearing a doctor's coat or you're a member of a cartel or you're a drug dealer on the street. We're going to hold you accountable.
Following the arrests, Perry's family saying in a statement, "We look forward to justice taking its course."
One of the accused doctors is out of jail after posting bail. He's allowed to continue practicing medicine while the medical board investigates, but must disclose the charges he's facing. Now, the Ketamine Queen also pleaded not guilty. She's being held without bail and faces decades behind bars if convicted. Guys?
All right, Dana Griffin in LA for us. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss.
While their investigation is still ongoing, federal authorities say they believe they know who was responsible for Matthew Perry's death. In all, 5 people have been charged in connection with the ketamine overdose that killed the actor last October, including doctors Mark Chavez and Salvador Plasencia.
Mr. Perry fell back into addiction, and these defendants took advantage to profit for themselves.
This morning, NBC News learning that Chavez's license is still active. The California Medical Board saying the board is aware of the charges, is investigating the matter, and will take appropriate action. Well, Chavez has agreed to take a plea deal. Plasencia has pleaded not guilty and posted a $100,000 bond. The judge agreeing to allow Plasencia to keep running his medical practice, but says he must disclose the charges he is facing. Prosecutors outlining how they believe the 2 physicians worked together to provide Perry with the powerful anesthetic without a legitimate medical purpose in an 18-count indictment, in which they say Plasencia met with Perry's assistant, Kenneth Iwamasa, about a month before Perry died, instructing Iwamasa on how to inject the actor with ketamine. Days later, according to court documents, Plasencia gave Perry a large dose of the drug, which caused him to freeze up and a significant spike to his blood pressure. Despite the episode, the doctor left the residence after leaving additional vials of the drug for Iwamasa to administer to Perry. Plasencia's lawyer denies those allegations.
Doctors are in a position of authority and trust, and these 2 doctors violated that.
Still, investigators say it was Jasmine Sangha, the alleged ketamine queen, who provided the dose that ultimately killed Perry. The DEA says Sangha was still running a drug emporium when they raided her apartment earlier this year. The beloved actor had long been open about his battle with addiction and the struggle that haunted him behind the scenes.
If you worry that you're having this problem, or you know somebody that is, raise your hand, find somebody who's smarter than you about this, and talk to them, and be honest about it, because the secrets are what kill us.
It's so sad. And what comes next in these cases?
Yeah, that is the question that everybody wants to know. So as the medical board is reviewing Dr. Plasencia and Dr. Chavez's licenses and deciding whether or not to suspend those, 3 individuals have taken, plea deals. But when it comes to Jasmine Sangha, she is the ketamine queen, and Dr. Plasencia, they are the lead defendants in this case. They have court hearings later this month, and there's already a trial date set for October. But potentially we could see them take plea deals as well. So this is kind of like changing by the minute.
Yeah, of course. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chloe. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific.
If you are interested in our future coverage of this story, be sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell before you go. Verdict Vantage thanks you for supporting our continued news coverage and research.
Thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned for more breaking stories, and remember, email verdictvantage@gmail.com with all of your video